Welcome to our third JWF webinar. My name is Reiko Yoshi. I'm a manager at Japan Water Forum. Before we get started, I would like to explain the flow of the webinar. First, on behalf of JWF, our director, Mr. Asai, will make introductory remarks on today's webinar. After that, today's guest speaker, Mr. Kazushi Hashimoto, will present about Japan's experience in on-site wastewater management. Then we'll move on to the Q&A session. During Q&A session, we will answer the questions that participants posted in advance. So if you have any questions, please post it in the Q&A box. Now, I would like to welcome Mr. Asai, our director at Japan Water Forum. Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'd like to thank you for attending the third JWF webinar. Unfortunately, all of us are still in a difficult time due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I sincerely hope you are doing well and staying healthy. This webinar series aims to share Japan's practical know-how and experiences on how to address water-related issues and the long history of failures as well as success. Safely managed water sanitation and hygiene services are an essential part of preventing infectious diseases and protecting human health. Today, we'd like to feature sanitation and wastewater issues, which are biggest challenges in the water sector, and highlight the experience in the on-site decentralized solution in Japan. As you might know, the agricultural use of nice soil was very popular in Japan until the 19th century. However, during the rapid economic growth starting from the late 1950s, the traditional nice soil recycling system broke up due to the urbanization and the spread of chemical fertilizer. Also, as growing demand for flush toilets, the old type of on-site system expanded and caused serious water pollution and other troubles. Learned from the experience, Japan has developed the on-site system in rural areas, as well as centralized storage systems in urban areas. Today's webinar, having a distinguished guest speaker from the Japan Sanitation Consortium, will share Japan's efforts on the on-site system. I hope today's exchange and discussion will be a great starting point leading our future collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks, Asai-san. Now let's move on to the introduction of the speaker. Mr. Hashimoto used to be in charge of Japan's ODA loan operation as Director General of OECF, then JBIC, now JICA. After retiring JICA in 2009, he joined Yachio Engineering Company and also took the position of the Counselor, Japan Water Forum, the advisor to Japan Sanitation Consortium, and the consultant to ADBI. Currently, Mr. Hashimoto is active for advocating institutional framework for better sanitation management. Now, let's welcome our guest speaker for today, Mr. Hashimoto. Mr. Hashimoto, the floor is yours.
Hi, I am Kazushi Hashimoto, advisor Japan Sanitation Consortium. Today, I will explain Japan's experience in on-site wastewater management. Next slide, please. Okay, next, please. Before my explanation, I will show you a video in order for you to know the on-site system in Japan visually.
Known for its spotless streets and advanced infrastructure, some might think Japan's sanitation model can't be that relevant to emerging Asia. This may change upon a closer look at its uniquely evolved sanitation mechanism. Japan's close to full coverage sanitation system runs on two wheels: a centralized sewerage system and Jocasta, an affordable and easy-to-install on-site facility. And the latter model could present a possible solution for developing economies in advancing citywide inclusive sanitation. It may be a surprise, but Japan's modern sanitation history does not trace back that far. Because of the long and well-established practice of using night soil as fertilizer, it took the outbreak of cholera in 1880 for the country to fully address the need to regulate water supply and waste treatment for improved hygiene. New legislations banned discharging untreated wastewater into the environment. This paved the way for the idea of an on-site night soil treatment system that became the foundation of today's Jocasta. Then came World War II that ended in 1945 and destructed much of Japan's infrastructure, including that for sanitation. In an effort to swiftly recover and expand sanitation services throughout the country, post-war Japan opted to develop multiple sanitation models simultaneously. While populated areas started building centralized sewerage systems, Jocasta became an option in rural and suburban areas. Having these multiple options allowed municipalities to identify and implement the most efficient sanitation system for their topography. In the 1950s, Japan also brought an end to the night soil recycling system, largely due to the introduction of chemical fertilizers, further increasing the need for modern sanitation. This pressure increased further as the nation entered the economic miracle phase in the 1960s, which brought the rapid development of urban areas. The current Jocasta model that can be installed at an individual household became available in the 1980s. This Jocasta is capable of treating all the household wastewater, not just from toilet, but also from kitchen and bathroom. The Japanese government at the time began developing various legal frameworks, subsidy schemes, as well as public-private partnerships to promote Jocasta. These policies provided incentives for private companies to devise quality Jocasta products and carry out appropriate operation and maintenance. From 1987 to 2015, the government invested approximately 415 billion Japanese yen for the promotion of Jocasta. Jocasta offers many advantages as an innovative sanitation alternative. It can treat wastewater as effectively as a sewage treatment plant. It can be installed for individual houses, apartment blocks, as well as commercial facilities within a few days. And the costs are far less than that of sewerage. This is why an average of 120,000 new Jocasta are being installed across Japan every year. Standing in his sunny backyard in a rural community just north of Tokyo, Mr. Yamada describes how Jocasta enhanced his standard of living. He and his family have been using Jocasta since 2014 after the plan to extend sewerage in his community was canceled due to budgetary constraints.
家は浄化槽の前は汲み取り便所だったんですけれども、トイレは水洗になって大変便利になりましたし、清潔になりました。
Beyond the comfort and convenience, what puts a smile on his face is the awareness that he is now taking part in improving water quality in the rivers in his neighborhood.
以前は台所の水、洗濯の水等を川にそのまま流していたので、川を汚す犯人の一人になったんですね。ですから非常に心苦しい思いをしてましたけども、今は非常にきれいな水が流れてますので、鼻高々でいられます。
In Japan, Jocasta installation is now mandatory when building a house outside the service area. The government has defined treatment methods and a structure that must be adhered to. Jocasta manufacturing and sales also require government approval. To promote nationwide sanitation, subsidies are available to homeowners to cover the Jocasta construction fee. Jocasta installation, maintenance, desludging, and legal inspection must be handled by registered or approved private companies, and the operation must be carried out in accordance with the Jocasta Act that was passed in 1983. Only qualified personnel who has been trained and passed exams can engage in maintenance and operation. In the past 5 decades, approximately 200,000 people took the required training and passed the exams on Jocasta-related works, including installation, operation, and maintenance conducted by JECES, a government-authorized institution in Tokyo. These examinations and trainings could also be taken at other designated locations across Japan. Those involved in Jocasta businesses are subjected to fine or imprisonment if they violate the provisions of the Jocasta Act. This comprehensive operation and monitoring structure support the high-quality sanitation that the use of Jocasta provides. Japan's innovative approach in developing its sanitation infrastructure helped get Japan where it is today, a place where people enjoy high-level hygiene and its health benefits. It also presents a useful policy lesson for those involved in sanitation development in Asia and the Pacific, especially in the wake of the pandemic, which has highlighted the even more urgent need for equitable, quality sanitation.
Okay, in the video, you might have seen evolution of Japan's on-site sanitation and understood what Jocasta is. You might also have heard that the comprehensive operation monitoring structure established in Japan supports high-quality sanitation that the use of Jocasta provides. Today, I would like to explain more in details of the operation monitoring structure established in Japan for the on-site sanitation system. What I would like to stress the most is that the core element of this operation and monitoring structure is good, not only for Jocasta, but also for any on-site system, including septic tanks. Next, please. These are ADBI publications which I wrote on this subject. Next, please. What is the key issue and the challenges of on-site system in developing countries? Policy on Fiscal Strategy and Septage Management in 1918, published by state government of Telangana, described key sanitation issues and challenges in Telangana state in India as follows. 1. On-site systems are often dramatically undersized, faultily designed, and poorly constructed. On-site systems are frequently installed underneath homes, driveways, or sidewalks due to small lot size, thus making access for inspecting or dislodging difficult. 2. Limited capacities and resources with local governments and absence of regulations on maintenance and cleaning of on-site systems are a major challenge. 3. Fecal sludge is dumped on drains and open areas, posing considerable health and environmental risks. 4. Sanitary workers work in hazardous conditions, manually cleaning on-site system without adequate protective gear and equipment. 5. There is a general lack of awareness on on-site systems among the system owners and the local governments, which results in pollution of the ground and surface water bodies. I believe the situation in other developing countries would not be much different from the situation in India. Next slide, please. Japan too suffered from the deficient management of on-site systems. In 1960s and 70s, the use of the old type Jocasta, which treats only black water, had expanded rapidly in Japan. But the development of the concerned legal and administrative system had lagged behind, resulting in the pollution of public water bodies and in various troubles, such as disputes among neighbors on the noises and odors caused by the unregulated use of the old type Jocasta. At the time, many old type Jocasta were installed while the users were unaware that their facilities were not properly registered and utilized without proper maintenance and discharging, resulting in insufficient treatment performance. At the time, anybody could install it at anywhere as far as it met the standard on the site. By then, although the equipment and the gears for discharging operations had already been modernized in Japan, discharging operators continued to suffer stigma. Next slide, next please. Okay. This table is a comparison of the challenges between those which developing countries are currently facing and those which Japan had experienced 50 years ago. You may find that there are a lot of similarities. Next slide, please. What is the fundamental issue of on-site system? Politicians and government officials tend to consider that on-site sanitation is not their job. It is a private matter. But it is not even a private matter since people do not take care of their on-site system. On-site system is a no person's land. Next slide, please. What is the most important for the on-site sanitation? My answer is that on-site sanitation must be a public matter, which politicians and the administration needs to take care of. Once it is made a public matter, there are already abundant technologies and samples of regulatory measures taken by other countries, including those taken in Japan. In Japan, it is very much a public matter. I will explain how Japan makes on-site system a public matter. Next slide, please. Firstly, the design of the on-site system must be right. Manufacturing of on-site system is the area which is relatively easy for industrialists to enter. If not regulated properly, many on-site systems of lesser quality and performance may appear in the market, and the customers may not make a proper selection. In Japan, in order to ensure proper design of on-site system, structural standards, government approval, and performance testing system play important roles. A corporate body that intends to manufacture on-site system in factory must receive an approval issued by the central government for the types of on-site system to be manufactured. Such approval is issued when the application for these on-site systems meet the structural standard of the targeted on-site system prescribed in the building standard law. Structural standard consists of the technical standard for treatment performance, such as BOD, and the standard on the structural matters, such as the minimum size of tanks per capita. If manufacturer intends to manufacture a new type of on-site systems which do not meet the structural standard, for example, more compact size than the standard, enabled by the use of new technologies, the performance of this new type of on-site system must be tested by the designated testing institution. Next, please. Performance test is conducted by for the period sufficient to check the treatment performances in the different weather conditions, temperatures. If it is to be done in the outside, it takes 48 weeks, near a year. Next, please. Even if the design standard is established, if nobody monitors the compliance with the design standard, such standard would be useless. In Japan, under the building structure law, building standard law, all the new buildings and houses are subject to the building confirmation and inspections conducted by the building officials of a local government. If conformity with building standards is recognized, a building official issues a confirmation certificate. The building officials are qualified person on judgment of the conformity with building standards, registered by the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport, who has passed the national examination. Next, please. This is a flowchart of building confirmation in Japan. I know the similar system exists in other countries. In some developing countries, there is a similar system, and it is applied to large buildings as a part of environmental impact assessment. But it is not applied for small houses in reality, although on paper, it must be applied. In Japan, even I build one-story house for my family, I must obtain the building confirmation before start construction. All the application procedure will be handled by the home builder on my behalf. You may wonder how a building official can handle all the applications made by numerous house owners and check all the aspects of the house buildings, including the structure of on-site system. He needs to have a tremendously wide knowledge on various aspects of house or building, including those on on-site system. Is it possible? Is he superhuman existence? No, he doesn't need to be a superhuman. Standardization helps. As for the on-site system, what the building official needs to check out, firstly, whether the type of the on-site system which is described in the building plan is the one approved by the government or not. Secondly, whether the name of the on-site system construction vendor, which is described in the building plan, is on the list of the on-site system construction vendors registered to the local government or not. If both answers are yes, he will issue the confirmation certificate. Next, please. In order to ensure proper installation of the on-site systems so that the access for the operation and maintenance, including the desludging works and the inspection by the third party is secured, such a system in which the installation work is conducted by the well-trained installation vendors and workers needs to be established. In Japan, registration system for the installation business and the certification and examination system for the installation workers plays important role in this regard. In Japan, the persons who wants to manage an on-site system construction vendor are subject to registration with the local government. The on-site system construction vendor must assign an on-site system installation worker in each place of business. The license for such workers is issued to those who have passed the examination for on-site system installation workers administered by the designated examination agency. Next, please. Any on-site system generates sludge, which needs to be removed from the tank. In order to ensure proper management of the sludge in Japan, regular discharge is made a legal obligation of the owner or user of on-site system by the promulgation of the Onsite System Act, Jocasta Act. The owner or user of an on-site system installed in a house or buildings and who is authorized to manage this facility is under the Onsite System Act, Jocasta Act, legally designated as the manager of the on-site system. The Onsite System Act mandates these managers to dispatch their on-site systems once a year, work that can be entrusted to an on-site system dispatching vendor. Next, please. In order to ensure proper disposal of the on-site sludge, これ違うね。Next, please. これだ。Sludge treatment capacity needs to be developed. In Japan, nice soil treatment facilities were built nationwide by the local governments pursuant to the public cleansing law in 1950 and 60s before the start of the nationwide development of sewage treatment plants in 1970s. More than 1,000 nice soil treatment facilities were built, and now the same facilities are being used for the treatment of Jocasta sludge. Next, please. Evidence shows that the development of on-site sludge treatment capacity really pays off. In Japan, the nationwide sewage system development started on year 1970, which was also the year when waterborne disease was almost completely eliminated in Japan. This was sometimes attributed to the nationwide development of piped water supply systems and the nationwide development of on-site sludge treatment capacities, which had taken place in 1950 and 60s in Japan. Next, please. For the septic tanks, regular desludging may be the only way to maintain its limited treatment performance. But for the advanced on-site system, such as Jocasta in Japan, since it has a few mechanical equipment, periodic check and adjustment of the equipment is essential to maintain its good treatment performance. In Japan, houseboat type small-size Jocasta were widely used by residential users. Even in developing countries, where residential users are using low-cost on-site systems such as septic tanks or pit latrines, commercial users are introducing Jocasta or a similar type of advanced on-site system for hotels, office buildings, apartments, shopping malls, etc. But they are not properly maintained. In Japan, users' legal obligation for operation maintenance, deployment of technical supervisors for large-scale on-site system, and registration system for operation maintenance vendors ensures proper operation maintenance of the advanced on-site system. The On-Site System Act, Jocasta Act, requires the owner of on-site system to operate and maintain their on-site system in conformance with the frequencies specified in the ministerial ordinance. Once in every 4 months for small-scale Jocasta, more frequent intervals for medium and large-scale on-site system for commercial buildings. The owner of the large on-site system must deploy the qualified on-site system technical supervisor when the number of users exceeds 500 population equivalent. The owner of such a large size on-site system are mandated to keep record of its performance and submit it to the local government once instructed according to the provision of water pollution control law. The ordinance is as frequent as 1 to 2 weeks intervals. The frequency of maintenance works required for such a large on-site system specified in the ministerial ordinance is as frequent as 1 to 2 weeks intervals. Such requires the deployment of the technical supervisor who does such works on behalf of the owner. The owner of the advanced on-site system may entrust the O&M works to the on-site system maintenance vendors, which is subject to registration with the local government. In my view, proper operation and maintenance, including the sludge management of the large-size on-site systems of commercial users, would be important from the political economy viewpoint. If the rich users are not behaving properly, how could we expect that the ordinary residential users behave properly? Next, please. The owner or the user of the on-site system do not have a knowledge on operation and maintenance of their systems. It is not realistic to expect that they do these works by themselves. It is a dangerous work for non-professionals too. Therefore, it is essential to create a system in which qualified professionals do these works on behalf of the owner or users. In Japan, certification and examination system for the operation and maintenance technicians secures the qualified human resources required for the maintenance of on-site system. The on-site system maintenance vendor is required to use the certified on-site system operator in the actual operation and maintenance work. To be certified, the on-site system operator needs to pass the on-site system operator examination or complete a training course administered by the designated training institution. Next, please. Even in Japan, there is a general lack of awareness on on-site system among the residents and the local governments. The people who are in a position to be most affected by the deficiency of the on-site system would be those who make a living by the on-site sanitation management. For example, the installation business, the desludging operators, maintenance vendors of the on-site system. In order to raise the awareness of these people, training institutions were established. Japan Education Center for Environmental Sanitation, JECS, one of these training institutions, was established in 1966 to provide trainings for professionals in the business related to the on-site system, Jocasta in Japan. In 1984 and 95, national examination for on-site system operators and the on-site system installation workers started. JECS was designated as the agency for training courses and the agency for the examinations by the Onsite System Act, Jocasta Act. The JECS training program are entirely financed by the training fees paid by the trainee. No government subsidies are provided for the JECS training course. The trainee pays the training fee since once they obtain the certificate for completing the training course or passing the national examination, their job opportunities and salaries in the future are guaranteed by the provision of the Onsite System Act. Next, please. In Japan, through the examination and training course administered by the JECS, more than 3,000 on-site system technicians newly join the on-site system business every year. It should be noted that many desludging operators send their staff for training course for on-site system operators and transform themselves to the maintenance vendors, thus getting rid further from the stigma. Next, please. In many countries, not limited to developing countries, due to the general lack of interest on the on-site system, the performance of the on-site system is usually not properly monitored. This may result in the lack of accountability and weak support from both the general public and the government. In order to overcome such situations and to make the on-site system accountable, in Japan, there is a system in which effluent water quality of all the on-site systems are checked periodically. the owner or user of on-site system are legally obligated to accept the inspection of the on-site system by a designated inspection agency once a year and pay the inspection fee. In this legal inspection, not only the effluent water quality, but also the appropriateness of the discharging works and the operation and maintenance works, particularly observance of the rules on their frequency, are checked. The head of local government shall appoint the designated inspection agency, the staff of which are usually trained by the training institutions, JCS. In 2017, out of 7 million units of on-site systems installed all over Japan, 3.3 million units, 43%, were actually inspected. It seems to be a great achievement, but government of Japan is not satisfied with this coverage ratio of the inspection and is willing to increase it. Next, please. How is the effect of rigorously regulated Japan's on-site sanitation system? People, not only the general public, but also the professionals such as storage engineers, tend to be dubious about the environmental effects of on-site system. It is true even in Japan, but in Japan, the evidence tells that 85% of Jocasta, which treats both black water and gray water, of which the effluent water quality were inspected during 2013, produced the effluent BOD less than 20 milligram per liter, which meets the effluent water quality standard. Next, please. In Japan, the large-scale on-site systems compliance to the environmental regulation is much more rigorously monitored. The large-scale on-site system is subject not only to the monitoring under the On-Site System Act, Jocasta Act, but also to the monitoring under the Water Pollution Control Law. The owner of the large-scale on-site system is required to comply with the effluent water quality standard. In case of non-compliance, the head of local government may order to change the structure or the way of use of such a large-scale on-site system. The owner of the large-scale on-site system is required to measure the pollution level of the effluents and keep records of the measured findings. The head of local government may call for a report from the owner of large-scale on-site system concerning the condition of the on-site system, the method of treatment of polluted water, etc., and other necessary matters, or may have his officers enter the factory or building and inspect the on-site system or other related matters. Next, please. This is a summary of operation and monitoring structure of on-site systems in Japan. Next, please. My conclusion. In order to improve the on-site system in other countries, it may not be necessary to make the same framework as the one in Japan. It must be the one which reflects the unique situation of each country. Having said that, the framework in Japan would be a useful reference for any country which wants to improve the on-site system, since the issues and challenges to be dealt with are the same in Japan and in any other countries. Okay, next, please. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation, Mr. Hashimoto. Now we would like to move on to the Q&A session. First, let me ask a question about how to introduce the system to developing countries. On-site wastewater management based on Jocasta system works well in Japan. However, how can we adapt this system to developing countries? I don't think most developing countries can afford to install such costly equipment, especially in ordinary households. Please answer the question.
Okay. Thank you very much for the important question. And I like to say two things. Firstly, Japan's operation and monitoring system of on-site system, substantial portion of this system can be applicable not only for Jocasta, but also septic tank or pit latrine, yes, other systems. My second point is that I agree with you that Jocasta is in many developing countries, it's not affordable for general household, average household. But looking at the situation of Asian developing countries, effluent standards for office building, hotels, shopping, etc., these commercial buildings is being more tightened. So in these countries, and commercial buildings are required to introduce Jocasta or similar type of wastewater treatment system. So my suggestion would be to apply this Jocasta or similar type of system to commercial buildings.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Hashimoto. I understand. Thank you very much. And it seems like there are many questions posted in Q&A box. So could you answer that questions, Asai-san?
Yes, I'd like to pick some questions. Thank you for posting many questions. The first question from Simon Guerrero Cruz. What are your thoughts on policy differences between Japan and Southeast Asia? I sense that radical legislation changes, such as in the 80s in Japan, are not as easily applicable to Thailand, for example. Are there any recommendations to revolutionize sewage management from a policy perspective? Could you respond to this question, Mr. Hashimoto?
Okay, so I don't think Japanese regulatory system, legislation system in Japan is not applicable to other Asian countries. So Japanese system, yeah, the legislation system introduced in 1980s, 70s or 80s is based on the prevailing situation at that time in Japan. And the situation in at the time of was not very different from the current situation in many of Asian countries. So I still believe that the Asian countries needs to think about how to implement the legislation system if they really want to improve the wastewater program in Asian countries.
Thank you, Hashimoto-san. You are very kind answer. And I would like to move on to the next question. This is a very basic question from the Mr. Muhammad Haili Basri. What is the target Jocasta system coverage in Japan?
Okay. いいかな? Okay. Yeah, Japan's policy is that in the area where introduction of sewage system is not economically feasible, these areas are to be covered by the Jocasta system. Currently in Japan, near 75% of total population is already covered sewage system, but the rest 25% is uncovered by sewage system due to economical reasons. That means, yeah, in the rural areas, the population density is low, and low population density doesn't work in favor of sewage system. Therefore, on-site system is required, and therefore, Jocasta system needs to be introduced to these areas. That is so far Japan's target. Okay.
Thank you, Hashimoto-san. Thank you for your answers and the information. And I'd like to move on to next questions. The question about the price. How much net amount does the homeowner need to pay for installation and maintenance of Jocasta system? Does it become expensive in the long run?
Okay.
Could you answer this question?
As for the capital cost of Jocasta, in Japan, it costs $8,000 per household for installation cost. It may look very expensive, but it's because of in Japan, labor cost is very expensive, and most of the cost of installation of Jocasta is labor cost. Therefore, it's expensive. I personally calculated how much it cost in developing countries. Very roughly speaking, it may cost $2,000 per household. And I think it is still expensive for average household in developing countries. But as I already explained to you, the commercial buildings needs to install the advanced wastewater treatment system, and Jocasta can compete for that market. And as for the maintenance cost, yes, in Japan, maintenance cost needs to be paid by the household. And it's not cheap because, again, most of the maintenance costs is the payment to the operational maintenance vendors and payment to the discharging vendors. And the majority of this cost is labor cost, and the labor cost in Japan is very expensive. So therefore, it's not very cheap. And in developing countries, I think since labor cost is cheaper than Japan, the maintenance cost would be much lower than in Japan. But still, maybe it's rather not affordable for average household in developing countries. But in case of, again, in case of commercial buildings, they need to install advanced wastewater treatment system, such as Jocasta, in order to comply with the effluent standard being tightened in even Asian developing countries. And commercial building can afford to pay for the maintenance cost, I believe.
Thank you very much for your very clear and detailed answers. I'd like to pick up the next question is that is from social aspects. How has Japan overcome stigmatization?
Okay. Yeah, that's also is already explained in my presentation. The approval system of dislodging operators, dislodging vendors by the mayor, head of the local governments, played very important role to eliminate the stigma. So also these dislodging operators are also trying to transform them into from dislodging vendors to operation and maintenance vendors by sending their staff to the training course administered by JCS. That's also helping to get rid of helping them to get rid of the stigma. And so I believe in the developing countries also, the most important thing is important measures to get rid of the stigma is how to formalize this business, how to recognize their works officially. So that's why I'm telling repeatedly that the most important thing for on-site sanitation is how to make it a public matter.
Thank you for your answers and a very important message. I like the next question is from some technical question. What type of biological process normally used in Jocasta system, and also what is the effluent standard for BOD and assets for Jocasta system in Japan?
Okay. First, I would like to apologize that I'm not the engineer. So I can't explain details about the biological process. But my basic understanding, very basic, is that more or less same as the modern sewage system. Okay, contact aeration like that. And effluent standard for BOD, yes. In Japan, basically, the standard type of Jocasta are required to be manufactured so that it would produce the effluent water, BOD, less than 20 milligram per liter. Okay, and also they can remove nitrogen, and in some special type of Jocasta can even remove phosphorus. Okay.
Thank you, Hashimoto-san. I'm sorry for asking you a technical question. The next question is, what is a way is effective that ordinary people and the politicians' mindset to shift the way to your path, your proposed path?
Okay.
Any suggestion?
Yeah. And on this matter, I would like to explain a little bit of my understanding of the process when Onsite System Act, Jocasta Act, was promulgated in 1983. This law was prepared, drafted by not the ministry, but the parliamentarians, because there are so many people involved in the on-site system, such as installation workers, manufacturers, installation workers, dislodging workers, etc., and the operation maintenance operators. So it's very difficult for one ministry to gather all the thought of these different peoples into one law, one act. So parliamentarians played a very active role in the promulgation of Onsite System Act. So the job of a parliamentarian is obviously to talk with the people. So they talked a lot with each kind of people, installation workers, dislodging workers, and operators. So what I like to recommend you is to start talk with these peoples. Particularly, in case, I understand that in developing countries, in Asian countries also, there are a lot of dislodging operators. They are sometimes formal, sometimes informal, but they are mostly private operators, private people. So I strongly recommend you to start discussion, talk with these people. They will give you the insight of what you had better to do for them.
Thank you very much for your informative answer. And perhaps the next question is the last. Based on the experiences in using Jocasta for decades, what are the remaining key challenges in the design, operation, and maintenance of Jocasta system? Could you give any suggestion?
Yeah, I think the technology of Jocasta system is already almost completed. And the challenge in Japan is that, as I explained in my presentation, before the diffusion of current Jocasta system, which treats black water and gray water, both black and gray water, a lot of old type Jocasta, which treats only black water, were installed. And still, many people are using this type of old type Jocasta. So in case of old type Jocasta, black water, toilet wastewater is treated, will be treated. But gray water from kitchens or bathroom, etc., is released, not treated, really is discharged untreated. And still, we consider that this is a reason why in some specific water bodies in Japan, like lakes, closed water bodies, are not cleaned enough to meet the water quality standard. So how to promote the replacement of, from black old type Jocasta to a new type of Jocasta is a challenge for us. And our government is devising several measures to promote such a replacement.
Thank you very much. It's about time. I'm sorry, we can't respond to some of the questions, but I thank all the participants posing questions, and also I'd like to thank Mr. Hashimoto for your kind and also the informative comments and answers. Let's back to the moderator.
Okay, thank you very much, Asai-san, and thank you for your wonderful presentation, Mr. Hashimoto. We are running out of time, so we have received many questions, but we are very sorry not to answer all questions. But before we finish, we would like to announce the next JWF webinar. The next JWF webinar will be held on September 22nd, Japan times 4 to 5 p.m. UTC is 7 to 8 a.m. Okay. So topics is continuous effort for stable water supply in Yokohama. Speaker is Mr. Nakai Kazunori, Manager of Southern Water Distribution Management, Yokohama Water Works Bureau. All right, that's a wrap for today's webinar. Thank you again for your wonderful presentation, Mr. Hashimoto. So the recording will be viewed on our website later. Finally, it would be grateful if you could take your time to complete our survey. I really appreciate your active participation. Thank you to all participants. We look forward to welcoming you to our next webinar. Thank you so much. See you next time.